All right, guys, we're going to do a quick video here for you to watch. The reason for this video is that we have some new options that are going to be coming online for REMS this week. So I wanted to make you aware of how it's going to work, just because some of the things inside REMS are going to work slightly different than what you've seen in the past, especially when you're loading pages. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of how this works. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a new project, and I'm going to click on Add New Project. Let's call this the date here. I'm just going to use the same thing for the address real quick so you can see this work. And we're going to go down the list to load our pages. Now, this is where the first change to REMS is taking place. In the past, you've only been able to load one PDF that had all the pages combined. So that meant that if a builder sent you something that had page 1 was one PDF, page 2 was one PDF, then you had to combine them in order to bring them into REMS. This first change allows you not to have to do that. So I'll demonstrate how that works. So the first thing we're going to do is, just like we would normally do, we're going to click on Upload Project Plan. We're going to pick Choose File. I'm going to bring in this page, and then because these were separated out, we're going to do Add Another File. So we've got right here, we're going to click on Add Another File, and when you do that, you're going to see it gives you a new option to choose another file. And you can do this up to 5 times, but what this is going to allow you to do is, so that way the plan doesn't have to be combined. It will combine once it's inside REMS. So we're going to go ahead and choose our next file here. I'll do page 3 here. And then I'm simply going to set myself as the estimator and then hit continue. Now this is going to look slightly different than it has in the past, and I apologize for the wait here. My internet is a little slow today. But once these pages are loaded, you're going to see these load up differently than you've seen in the past. There's going to be some new options inside this. So you'll see this blue box appear for the first time. That's a new feature that lets you know that these pages are loading up to do what we're going to be doing next. Now the blue box is finished. You're going to see the pages that shows select relevant pages. Now this is going to look a little different than it has in the past. Before you had where they were all wrote out and then you just pick the pages you wanted and then it would save. Now it's going to be slightly different because of the way they're broken up. So we can see that the 2 pages that we loaded gives you the title of what those files were, so you know which one of those are. And you're just simply going to highlight them so that we know that they've been picked. Now the reason it says page 1 here is because the file only had 1 page when you loaded it. And if you load a file that has 6 or 7 pages, it's going to look similar to how it did before and give you that option, but then there'll be the opposite file down below that potentially has the same thing. In this situations, there was just one page out of those, and that's why it's saying page 1 on both. So in this case, we're going to check them both, and then we're going to hit continue. You can now see that you've got a new page that we didn't have in the other version. This is our rotate and sort page. So before, once you'd picked your pages, it would load up and the file is ready to go. Now this new feature gives you the ability to make a couple quick changes, and one of those being a rotate option. So we can see in this situation that one of the pages came in a vertical, and we want to switch it so that it's going to match that first page. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use this rotate feature down here in the corner, and when we rotate it, we can rotate it 360 degrees, and you can see now that we've rotated it that it's in the same format. Now, it's going to come in on the right page. It's just because of the way it came in that vertical, that's why it looks a little bit bigger than the other one. But going forward, once you're in the plan, that's going to look corrected. And then the other option that you're going to have is, say that you have a bunch of pages that you've loaded, but you don't like the order. So now we can change that order by dragging this one over in front of the other one, and then that order will change. So we can see now that we're moving these in a different order. So it'll allow you to move those around before you save the file and then to be able to work on it. So in this situation, this is the way we want it, and we're going to hit continue. Once you've done that, the plan has now been loaded. One of the features before was it was kicking you back out to the main menu after you'd loaded a plan. That has been corrected, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I know some of the people were a little annoyed with when you were to change an estimator or something, it would kick you back out to the main, and you'd have to do a search again. Now you do no longer have to do that. It's just going to bring you straight into the project. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into this project on the Plan and Other Files page. It's going to load just normally how it normally does. And I'm going to go in and edit this. I'm actually going to lay this document out real quick, and then once I've laid this out, you're going to be able to see exactly some of the new features here. So, and I've went ahead and designed out this page so that way you can kind of see what this next step's going to be. So you can see what we've done is this particular house that we've roughed this basement in for an unfinished basement in this situation. So just your basic keyless fixtures, things like that. Kept it pretty generalized just so you can see how this is going to work on this next step. So now that we've saved this, the example that we're going to have on the next piece is that we have added you the ability to change out pages without losing the estimate. And I'll go into a little bit more example on this. So the unfinished basement is a good example because a lot of times when you're estimating a plan, it's going to come in, and a lot of times the builder will say, hey, the customer decided to finish the basement. Here's the new page of the basement finished. Can you lay this out so that we can change the estimate? So in most situations in the past, you had to redesign the plan out or basically start from scratch. What this new feature is going to do is allow you to leave all the symbols but change the backgrounds out, where that's something in the past we couldn't do. So I'm going to give you an example of how that works. We're going to go to Overview, and we're simply going to go to Edit Project Info. In this situation, we're going to upload project plan. We're going to click Choose File. And when we click on Choose File, we're going to see, click on this file, and we're going to click Update. Now, this is something that you will have not seen before. In the past, when you did any kind of update, it basically gave you a yes or no answer. Yes, the yes answer made it so that new pages would load and it would clear everything off, and no would be, say you were changing estimator, things like that. Now these three options on this new screen are going to ask you some questions. The first one's going to say update project with no relevant plan changes. That would be if you went in, made a pricing change inside the project options page, or changed the estimator or field manager. If you were doing nothing else, you would click that first option, and it basically saying, we're updating this project, we're not making any changes besides the stuff that you did in that situation. The next button is going to be update relevant pages, keeping existing assemblies on the plan, and that's the one we're going to do. We'll skip over that real quick just so I can talk about this last one. The last option you're going to have is update relevant pages, removing the existing assemblies. So that would be that you're updating your pages and you want everything cleared off and you want to start fresh with those new pages. So that third option is probably not something you're going to use a lot, but it's just giving you a better breakdown of how this feature is going to work. So like I said, we're going to go up to the second option because we're just going to update the relevant pages, keeping the existing assemblies on the plan. And we're going to hit continue. And when we hit continue, we're going to see that it's loading up that new page for us. And we're going to have some new options as far as how this goes. You can see the blue box pops up here to tell you that it's loading the page. Once that blue box ends, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to say select or replace relevant pages. So slightly different than the first load page that you saw before. Now, there's two different options on this page, and I want to make you aware of it. The bottom box here says use this box to add new pages. What that's going to allow you to do is if you had a plan where you only had 2 pages and you needed to add a third page, that's where you're going to use this box down here. Probably not something that you're going to do a lot, but I want to make you aware what that's doing is basically going to add an entire new page into the editor. So, and that's the page, this one is what you would use for that. This top box is when we're going to replace a page. So say we need to replace this first basement page here, and with the finished basement style, we're simply going to click replace. And when we do that, it's going to show you the page that we've loaded up. And you're simply going to go ahead and click on that, and then it's going to show you now that that page has been picked. And we're going to click on continue. And then those new pages are going to load. So now that page has got all those assemblies, and they are changed now so that this is going to show that new finished basement. So we're going to leave the order that it's in, and we're going to hit continue. When we do that, it's going to kick us back into the page or back into the project, and then we're going to hit plans and other files. Stop that there. We're going to go in and edit. Now, you can see that it has reloaded the plan. Zoom it out a little bit so you can see it. It's reloaded the plan with the new background that you needed. So in this situation, we're going to take off those keyless fixtures, because now we have that finished basement. And then we simply can go in and start laying out our new finished basement. I'm not going to lay out the whole thing, but I think you get the point that it'll make it a quick, easy way. So if you have any builders that have changed anything, where they've moved a room around or something like that, and you don't need to redesign the whole thing, this will be a great feature for you. Also, the other great feature to this is going to be, think about when you have builders who you've bid several spec houses to. And the spec house is pretty close to how they normally do the project. But a lot of times, once we actually see the customer pages, we can see that it's slightly different than how we originally estimated it. So in a lot of situations, you'll be able to take your template, that maybe a spec that you've made as a template, bring it in, and then change those new pages. So it's going to match your original estimate, and then you can come in and make any slight changes you need to, dealing with the actual customer. So technically, in the form of faster estimating, this should help quite a bit. Also, one thing that you can do is if you have, say you just have a plan that comes close to how most ranches would lay out, you can do the same thing. Make that a template, bring it in, and then change those pages to the new pages, and then just slightly move your assemblies around on the page. So what I'm hoping this does for you guys is gives you a great opportunity to really speed up the process of estimating after you've already done an estimate, to be able to make quick changes with new backgrounds. So that's how that's going to work for you. And I really hope that kind of helps the process for you guys. So next thing we're going to talk about is, now that we've done that, is I want to talk about something in the past that we have not been able to do. And what that was to be able to disable. And I mean across the board. Disable builders, disable jobs, disable assemblies. This new feature is going to allow you to go in and shut something off that you've already done. So the example to that will be with the builder page. So if we say, okay, we're not necessarily working with a certain builder anymore, we're going to go in and we're going to say, I want to disable this. So we'll go ahead and disable this one. Once we've disabled it, now it's no longer going to show up in the menu. And that includes that it's not going to show up in a menu that deals with the tablet either. Once you've shut that off, those jobs are basically, I don't want to say it's deleted, but it's no longer going to show you that builder option in anything. It's not going to show it on the template options, anything. That builder has basically been shut off. So, but if there ever is a situation where you need to turn a builder back on, this is how it's going to be done. You're just going to go up here, and on your sort that you normally use to find a job, you're going to go to sort by, and then we're going to go to our disabled ones. And we can see right here, this Destiny Homes one is gives you the option to enable it. Now the cool thing about this one is once you hit enable, you can go in and say, okay, I want to either enable all the jobs under that account, or I just want to turn on one or two of them that I'm needing to go back and look at. So in this situation, we only have two in there. So in this, we're going to go ahead and tell it to check all. So you can see that we've told it to check both, and then we're going to hit enable. And when we do that, now we can see that that account has been turned back on. So if we go in there, both of those jobs exist. Now, so that's how the builder one's going to work. On the actual jobs one, same thing. We can go and you'll see that now these have a disable option. Keep in mind, disable means we're only hiding these. They're always still going to be part of your database and still part of your accounts, but that way you can be able to clean up some of these menus if you want to shut down some stuff that you no longer want in your menus. So let's talk about just go ahead and shutting this one down here. We're going to hit disable. And when we do, now that job is no longer in there. Same thing. We're going to go to turn it back on. We're just going to go to the sort, and we can go to disabled, and we'll see that that enable option's there. We can enable it and turn it back on. And it's going to be as simple as that. So that's how disable is going to work for builders and jobs. Now, next thing we'll go to is the assemblies. On assemblies, you may have some old assemblies that you no longer want to have inside the editor menu, and same thing with the editor menu on the tablet. What this is going to do is basically shut those off. Now, keep in mind, they're still technically there, but what's going to happen is any job that was already designed with that old assembly is still going to be part of those original estimates. So I don't want you to worry about shutting something off that's already part of another estimate. It's still technically there. It's just basically going into a hide menu so you can't see it. So let's say that we're going to shut down this, I believe this is a ceiling fan over 10 feet. Go ahead and click on disable there. And when we do that, we'll go back out to a job so I can show you exactly what that's going to look like. That was our first icon before, and now you can see that it has removed it out of that menu. So that option is no longer in here as far as one of the items. So this is a quick way to clean these up. Obviously, the copy and disable is still a preferable way for you to do that, where you're going to take it and copy in new information to a second version of an assembly. But this one just means it's going to shut down that maybe an obsolete one that you no longer use. So we'll go out here back to assemblies real quick, and same thing. We're just going to go to sort by disabled, and you'll see anything that you have the ability to enable. Now, enable is only going to work to show you items that you disabled this way. When you're doing a copy and disable, say you're going from version 1 of a standard receptacle to the second version, it's going to look similar to this. It's going to be in this menu, but it's not going to allow you to be able to turn it back on. Reason being is we don't want to ever turn on an assembly that we've already shut off because we've made a newer version. So if you see some in there that are blank like that, that's why. It's going to be telling you that this was a first or second version of something, and it doesn't even give you the option. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and turn this one back on. This is that ceiling fan over 10 feet. We're going to enable it. And now when we go back out to that menu, we can see that that's been turned back on for you. And now it will reappear in your editor menus as an option. So keep in mind, I wouldn't ever recommend you going and disabling something that you're going to make another version of it and then potentially come and turn this one back on. That's going to get confusing for you. This is really just a method to help you kind of clean up some of the assemblies, especially with a lot of people that get newer accounts. We set up a lot of the demo assemblies. That's always a big question. How do you shut off the ones that we provided? And I always tell people, use the copy and disable to make your second version of that, where in this case, you could just really have started your own and shut mine off after you're done getting the example of how it works. So that's how assemblies are going to work. Also, it's going to add it back into the same place that it was if you've sorted your menus in the order that they normally sit. And then also same thing on the Room Blast. It will take that assembly out of Room Blast if you were to place it, and then if you were to turn it back on, it would become part of that Room Blast again. So keep that in mind. Once you disable something and you've went in and added something else, be careful to shut something or turn something back on that you've already shut off, because it could reappear in your Room Blast, things like that. It's going to remember its last placements. Next thing I want to talk about is our inventory. Now, this one is going to give you the ability to shut down maybe a vendor you no longer use. So in this situation, we'll just do we're going to shut down this Echo account here. We're just going to hit disable. When we click on disable, you can see that's just removed it out of the menu. Now, the one thing that you need to remember in this, that's not the best example because I want to show you something else in that. It's going to be that, actually, no, we'll leave it that one. It's going to be the same thing that if you go up here to the sort by and the disabled, you can always turn this back on, and then that will reappear. Now, the next thing that's important is individual items. Now, on individual items, it's going to tell you that, let's say, I'm going to find 14.2 on here as a good example. We're going to go to 14. Actually, I think I already got that off, so let me turn that. I want to go through the whole step with you real quick. On the 14.2 is going to be the one that we're finding. So say we're shutting down this version of 14. I'm going to do a search here. We have 14.2 Romex. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the action menu here, and we're going to click on edit. And when we do, we're going to see a new button down here that says disable. And when we click on disable, it's going to ask you that deactivating this inventory component will restrict you using it going forward. Keep that in mind. Anything that you've already designed as an assembly that holds this 14.2, that is still technically part of that assembly until you were to recreate that assembly. So it's going to keep sending it that way because it's already become part of the structure of a plan or something else. We don't want to delete it. It's only basically acting as a hide method. But if we could do, once we click the disable, it's going to shut it off. So that 14.2 is no longer in there. But the thing I want to go to is back to assemblies. I'm just going to find something here. Know that the, give me a second here. I'm just going to go to, let's go to assembly. I know that it's going to be in, we'll see, it's in this recess can. If I go to the copy option on here, we can see on this recess soffit can, if we go down and we were to show our selection of items, we can see that that 14.2 is still part of this assembly. But also what it is that 14.2 has been marked as red to tell you it is no longer available going forward, or it's been shut off. So that's going to be your indication going forward that yes, it's still going to be becoming part of the reports to go out, but you will not be able to create anything else with it. So keep that in mind. A lot of times if you disable something like that and you come across that red, it's going to tell you, okay, I need to update this assembly because that item is no longer being offered. So let's go back out here to inventory. One other thing with that too, once you shut off that item and you've disabled it, when you do your export of inventories to basically have your prices updated, it's going to pull that out of that spreadsheeted information. And what I mean by that is you will not have any item that you've disabled going forward will not go out in your export menu because you don't want it to show up. You don't want your vendors to try to update things that they've already told you that are obsolete. So once you disable it, it's gone. You can always turn it back on, and when you were to turn it back on, it would show back up in this report. In most situations, you're not going to turn it back on, but just to let you know, this is that's a quick way for you to clean up this spreadsheet as well. So we'll go back out here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that 14.2 back on. Same thing to turn it on. You're just going to go up to the filter by and go to disabled. It's going to show you that that 14.2 has been disabled. Then we're going to click edit. And then we're just going to go back into it and we're going to click enable. And it's going to say, do you want to activate this inventory? Enable. And now it's back part of the inventory of what you have. So remember, the biggest thing I want you to take out of that is in all situations of those disabled, those items only mean they're kind of in a hide mode. They're still part of the original library of things that we did. And so anytime that we need to update anything, we still need to go try to update those items. It's just going to be a faster way for you to clean that up as far as removing some things in the past that we haven't been able to do. One last thing that I skipped over was on the inventory, on the global one, when you're going to shut down an entire section. When we click that, and it's going to give you this message that it's going to disable all those different ones that are available in that library. So when you do it this way, you're going to see many of the red ones shut off, many of the items shut off, and it's going to show it as red. And this will be the example of that. If you click on disable here, it's going to shut down that. And that was all of the wire options. So you're going to see it show up quite a few times as far as the things that were going to be shut down. So to shut down an entire vendor could shut down many, many items. So be careful doing it that way to shut down an entire vendor because it's going to affect so many things. Obviously, any assembly that was already built is still going to be there, and that red's just going to be there to tell you. But I just want to make you aware of how that works. And then just go back to inventory here in this situation. We'll go back to disable, enable that account back on, and then we're back on. So those are the new options for you guys. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up since you're dealing with it on a daily basis already. These features obviously are going to change how you've done some things in the past and change how you're going to do things going in the future. So I hope you guys enjoy these updates. Actually, we've got another round of things that we're going to be punching out here fairly shortly. And if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to hit me up, whether through the chat or send me an email, and I will help answer any questions you may have. Thanks a lot for watching.